characterful village of Cawood, just downriver from York, has had a turbulent and important history which belies its compact size. Nestled near the confluence of the Wharfe and the Ouse, it was probably identified early on as a defendable site. Indeed, there is thought to have been an early Anglo-Saxon fortress which dates from the time of King Athelstan, who reigned from 925 to 939 AD. Later, the castle was made into a palace for the archbishops of York, and many of them lived and died in the place across the centuries. There have been many sightings of priest-like figures in the current building and around the grounds over the years. Cawood Castle was fought over on several occasions during the English Civil War, and even acted as a prisoner of war camp at that time. One can only imagine the horror, pain and grief that was experienced on the site as time passed by. However, it is not for these dramas that Cawood Castle is best known in the area. Instead, it is a rather more personal story that intrigues most who study such things. According to publications from the 18th and 19th centuries, it was during the late 1600s that a murder took place which shook the local community. William Barwick, a Cawood man, for reasons best known to himself, decided to kill his own wife, Mary Barwick, in the very grounds of the castle. This despite the fact that she was with child, or perhaps because of it. He took her to the pond which still lies there and drowned her under the water with some difficulty. Apparently he had to bludgeon the poor woman several times in order to make her senseless. There he left her lifeless body at the bottom of the pond and made his escape. If he had left it at that, and perhaps after some time had departed the area, then he may have got away with his horrifying crime. But he could not. Instead, thinking perhaps that the body might surface or be discovered by a fisherman, he returned the next night, retrieved the body from its watery grave, and dug a dark, damp hole amid the bulrushes in which to put her. But still that was not enough for him. By now the whole experience had caused him to feel paranoid and guilty. He went about talking to various people, including his wife's sister's brother, making up false and ill-thought-out explanations as to why the woman was no longer about. Since no one had even asked yet, this behaviour began to give rise to some suspicion. His story about leaving her at the house of a relative in Selby could be, and would be, easily disproved at a later date. But it was the brother-in-law himself, Thomas Lofthouse, who precipitated the investigation into her disappearance, after revealing his experience at the same pond whilst filling a bucket with water. He witnessed the ghostly figure of a woman, dressed in similar clothes to those his sister would wear, sitting on a green hill next to the still water. She was dandling something white on her lap, as one would with a toy or a baby. She was seen at other times by several people, apparently pointing at the pond which had been her place of death. This was all reinforced by the discovery of her pale remains amid the bulrushes. In the 17th century, such ghostly evidence was still allowed in legal proceedings, and so, when it became obvious that Barwick had been making things up, he was arrested and put to trial for murder. He confessed and gave up the ghastly details of his crime. The grounds of Cawood Castle can be very busy with supernatural activity at times, for even today the sightings of priests and monks are joined by those of Mary herself, still pointing out the place where she and her unborn baby perished.